Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today we will talk about refs in React, or it is a shorthand for references, wherein it means, or rather which means that it is some sort of an object that pertains or references something. For example, it can reference pretty much anything, an element, a timer, an object, a string, and whatever shenanigans that we would want. And the beauty behind the reference or the ref in React is that it does not trigger a re-render. And excuse me, with references, we can use it to make changes to the real DOM and not make us, you know, um, trigger a re-render, which is most of the time if we have a lot of data or like stuff on the screen or on the page and we just want to apply a slight change, then the reference will make that call much much cheaper, and there's no like side effects and such. Okay, anyway, so there are many ways to use a reference, and we will talk about that in this video and what its purposes are. So the first purpose um is of course to not trigger a re-render. So if we just want uh, to have a hold of a specific state or data, and we don't want to make like this complicated set open, set data and such, then we can just attach that to the value of a reference. So for example, we have the reference in here. We just call this react.useRef, or we can pretty much just import that specific method or hook like so. Okay, and then we can provide it an initial value that we would like to provide it with. So in this case, I just provided it with null. Okay, because it's empty it's empty on the on first page load. But we can also, or rather, and in TypeScript, we can provide it with the generic, and specific. Pretty much generic means that what kind of type will TypeScript infer this with. So that will depend on whatever we pass as the argument. And since right now we have the HTML dialog element, and we can't really pass that inside as a function now, can we? There we go. It's when we hover, we can see that the initial value is the argument. Then we can't really like, for example, if we try to access the value, we get the value of null, although we passed this inside the HTML dialog element. So this is just for TypeScript, and in JavaScript you need to know yourself what kind of type is being used. So that's pretty much the caveat of dynamic languages, but that's out of the scope of this video. Anyway, let's try to console log the myref and see the content. So it's pretty much just an object. So this method or hook useRef returns an object with the current, or with the property named current. So if we check, we get the value. At first, we get the value of null, but then once the dialog element gets rendered and then this gets applied, okay, so this is saying that the value of the current property of myref will be equals to the dialog element, or this myref, or this variable named myref, which is an object with a name with a property named current, will reference, so near will reference this element dialog. Okay, so it's pretty weird because this is happening very fast. That's why at first we get the null value on the console, but if we expand that, we get the dialog element. I know I will get weirded out. But if the events are happening very fast, this is what we get most of the time in the browser with console logs. like milliseconds fast, lightning fast, blazingly fast. Okay, I am getting out of topic. Let's see. So right now, the dialog element has a somewhat of a bug when we try to open it with states. So when we try to forcefully open it with this, so the attribute named open in the dialog element will show up when it's open, and of course it will disappear when it's not open. Okay, and this implementation works, but when we trigger it this way, the native functionality of the dialog element will not occur. So by native, I mean like we will not have the backdrop or the um, pseudo element or the background color that we get when we open ref. So let me just show you that real quick. So when we try to open this, we get not only the um, backdrop not being there, but we also get the dialog element to not have the native styles, or by that it's not fixed on the screen. It's relative or static. No, is it relative or static? I think static. Yeah, it's just it goes down. Okay, of the overall page flow. Of course, if I add this inside the container, it will be part of the container, as you can see. And since this container is saying that we want to place the items at the center, so let me just check. Let's check the styles. So we have grid and place item center. Of course, the dialog element will be centralized. And since I removed the margin, okay, and since margin auto pretty much means we want to centralize the element, we are putting the dialog ref at the very left. So that is what's happening here. Okay. So if I remove the margin 0, the native styling gets applied, which is margin auto. Okay. However, the backdrop is not being applied as well. So even if we try to style it this way and add some shenanigans, like how we usually do it with custom models, we still won't get the backdrop element. So let me just try, or let's try to do it. Let me just try to pronounce that correctly. Let's try. There we go. Let's try. Let's try. Okay. Let's try to do this with the native functionality or methods of the dialog element. So we have the method named close and the method named show model or show. So first let's try this. Let's try this out. And since we're using TypeScript, we are getting errors. So let's just say HTML dialog element. Okay. If I refresh that and open, as you can see that even though I'm not applying any style to the dialog element, so if we check, there's no style at all, margin 0 gets removed, it is still centralized, and whatever else, nothing. And we can see that we get the native styling, which is dialog pseudo element internal dialog in top layer. So this is pretty much the pseudo element when the dialog is open. It gets applied, which is pretty cool. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, let's try the show method, which is not pretty much not the showcase of the entire video, but let's just do it anyway. Oh, interesting. So with this method, we are pretty much saying that we just want to show the model. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Huh, I see. So this method actually is used to not apply the styles that we see when we want to show the dialogue as a model. What's the purpose of that though? Hmm. Okay, let us proceed. This is not the main showcase of the video, but this is pretty cool. I did not know about this. So with the show method, we just don't apply the model styling. So with the model, we can just, well, apply it ourselves with this right here. Of course, we don't need it. We can just say margin auto. And if I just say show model, there we go, we get that. And to remove the background color and the border, we can just do something like this. There we go. Okay. And with refs, if we check that whenever we open and close, nothing is being console logged, even though we are trying to console log it in our component ourselves. And with this method, when we try to change a state, so for example, every time we click the open, so with this, we're toggling it off and on, or on and off. So if we try to click, we can see that the console.log is being rerun. And of course, we should get rid of this to get rid of that bug. Excuse me. And now we can see that every time we click on the button with the text open model, it is being, or the console log is being rerun. So that's why it will get pretty expensive if you just want to, for example, trigger a model when you have a lot of like nested components down the line. Excuse me. So everything will get recalled and etc. etc. So what if we try to change the value of the myref.current? So for example, react.useref, or yeah, for example, let's try to use a timer. So const timer equals to react.useref node.js. Oh, we don't have that kind of type. Oh, well, that's kind of a bummer. Okay, timer. Nope. Okay, let's just say no. Okay, so let's see. So timer is equals. So first, let's have a const count. So let's make a counter with by using useref, okay? But of course, we need to have the state of the count. We don't want it to be outside the component here now, do we? Well, we can have that, but we won't be triggering the render or recalling the function. And by recalling the function, we would be triggering or returning this JSX again, and this JSX will have a reference to the updated value of the states. So we have to count. So we'll have a button, I guess, start timer. So button start timer, excuse me. So type button. So just for semantics, and then on click. So when we click on the button, excuse me again, the value of the timer that current will be equals to set interval. There we go, and we're getting an error because we are using TypeScript. So let me just install the types for Node.js real quick. So just say pnpm add as a dependency array at types slash, oh, is this correct? At type slash node, yeah. Then let's wait for that to be installed. I will pause the video again. Okay, it is done. So let us now have that, or use the type. So node.js, there we go, dot time out. Is it timeout or timer? I think it's timeout. Or, excuse me, null, just to say that this is mutable. Okay. So everything that I'm saying, like types, mutable, is pretty much just for TypeScript, so that it does not give us an error, which is what we are seeing right now. So this error is for isLint. If we hover over that, missing semicolon. Okay. And then every, I don't know, 1000 seconds. And now we can say set counter to the previous or the current value, and then just want to return current as well. Then in here, we can just say button equals to, oh, and of course, you need to not forget to have an if statement wherein if the value of the current timer already exists, then we want to do something else. Okay, so let's try to do this way. If I click start timer, we will have the timer work. But of course, since we don't have an if statement and such, we will get a lot of set intervals, and the value of the timer that current will change along the way. So let's try to console the timer. Okay, and try to click this, we can see that that is going very fast. That because it's a lot of um intervals, and we are getting new values to the IDs, or this is pretty much the ID returned by the set intervals. If we check when we hover, excuse me, it returns, where's the return? Huh, there's no like type specify. Oh, here we go. For use with clear intervals. So it's pretty much the ID. And we can use the clear interval function or method to remove the intervals, because what we're seeing right now is a lot of intervals. Okay, excuse me. So we can have some kind of an if statement here. If timer that current exists, or rather if it does not exist, then we just want to um we just want to do this if it doesn't exist. But if the timer already exists, then we just don't want to do anything. Okay, so if we try that and click this, you can see that it's being updated, or the set counter is being run or being called by the set interval every 1 second, or every second. Okay, then of course so let's say stop timer, to change the value of the timer to make it null or whatever we want, we can just do something like, so let's see, um clear interval timers at current, and then of course we need to check if it exists in TypeScript. There we go. And then timer at current will be equals to null. Now if we try to save this, okay. And then if I stop, we won't get any more console log because the timer has been stopped. Okay, maybe if we start again, we get this, and then stop, we get nothing, start, stop, and so on and so forth. So the only reason why we are triggering a re-render is because we are changing the internal states handled by the virtual DOM or by React with the set counter function. Okay, so what about the other ways that we can have this? Okay, before we proceed, one thing to remember is that useRef is pretty much just a plain object that does not trigger a re-render, so you don't have to be scared. So that means that it can hold pretty much any value. But of course, you need to reference the current property, okay? Not the ref itself, but the current property of the ref. Okay, let's proceed to how we can use the ref for other stuff. So one last thing is with the forward ref method. So the forward ref method is powerful because we can make use, or we can use reusable components, or for example, we have a dialog, and then with that, we can just copy paste this component, or rather import this component anywhere within our code base, and we can make it dynamic as well. So for example, we can have, so since we're using TypeScript, I will just first declare interface dialog props, and that would be the um I guess we can say close button or something, something like that. Also, we can have like specify a type of like const close button for a dialog. So this is next like a little bit more advanced, wherein like you will be making your own UI components, and you can just have specific children within a parent component. So it's outside of the scope of Ref. So let's just not have it this way. Oh, yeah, you can have it this way. Dialog props extends React dot dialog HTML attributes HTML dialog element. There we go. So with that, we can say, or we can have here const dialog equals to React dot forward ref. So this is the method. And since we're using TypeScript, in a generic, we can specify what type of ref that we will be receiving for this specific component. So in this case, we'll be receiving the ref for the dialog element, like so, and then the props that we will be receiving, so dialog props. So why are we doing it this way? That's because since the since refs does not trigger a re-render, so it's outside, not really outside, but like it's not within the rendering logic or lifecycle of React, then we want to pass it in not as a props, because props is like the basis for React to check for changed values. Okay, to for example, if the props of the app component changes, then this app component will re-render or will rebuild itself. Okay, so that is why we need to forward the ref, because the ref does not trigger a re-render. And of course, most of the time, for example, if you're using a ref as a timer, the value of the current property will change. Okay, so now we can just call this, then we can then rather this will accept um a component, so or a function that will render or return a component. So we have this, and then we can just return react that uh not react that not a fragment, but let's return a dialog element. So we can have a ref equals to, so with that we can have access. So in this function in here, we can now have access to the props and the ref. So the first argument that this function will accept is the props itself, or the props itself, and then the second argument is the ref. Okay, so if we hover over this, we can check that the value of this variable or argument is equals to the forwarded ref, and its type is equals to a dialog element. That's what we passed on to here. So we can say ref equals ref, and there we go. Then I guess we can just say, for now, props. Okay, so spread operator props. So we can have props here. Okay, so since the props property also contains the children, we can just remove that and have it like this. Okay, oh, it should be close together. There we go. And now we can export this component, export default dialog. Okay, so now if we try to import that in here and instead use that as the element here, so we can import dialog and refresh, we can see that it's still the same and the ref is being passed on. And if we try to say that the type of the ref here is not equals to the HTML dialog element, so instead let's say div element, we can see that we get an error here because we are passing it onto the dialog element and in here as well, like so. because the type of this myref variable, excuse me, is equals to the HTML dialog element. All right, HTML dialog element. There we go. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for refs. This can be any value, like for example, we can have const string. I don't know the use of this though. So we can have use ref, then have the value of the current property as a string. So like, oh no, hello. Then if we console log the value here, you can see that the value is hello. And let's try that on the first page load. We want to change the value of that. So string that current equals to world. We can see that it doesn't really change in value. And of course, if I save this again, we will get the world now because we have HMR or hot module replacement. And with HMR, the values that we have before we saved the file or the module or the component is retained. So that's the beauty of HMR. Okay, anyway. And if I refresh, we don't really get that re-render when we change the value. But of course, we will get that we can get that, or rather we can know that the value has changed if we put the console log together or with, or rather during the time that we changed the value of the ref named string, or during the call stack. So within the same call stack, or within the same call to the function that we change the value of the ref. Okay, so if I refresh, we can see that we get this hello world combination. And if I click here, this is the um this is where or when this console log occurred. So this is what we call a call stack. Okay, a reference to where it was called and what or whatever function called it. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it for this. Is there anything else? So there is more caveats to ref, like uh the imperative handler, use imperative handler. So this is not really recommended, but we can use this with, so let's check description. There we go. Imperative code using refs should be avoided. So it's not recommended by the React team, but it can be used to um, change the values that we can expose to this specific ref. Okay, is that correct? Let me see again. Customizes the instance value that is exposed to the parent components when using ref. So let's try this out. So parent component is this right here, right? So the overall parent in the um, component hierarchy. So if we just say React that use imperative handle, and this will accept the ref and the function. Does this accept dependencies? Yep, it does. So here you can have it like that. Let me just do this. Let's see what error do we get. We want to return, okay, return ref.current. Ref dot. What do we need to return? Return ref. Oh, oh, I think we need to. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Forwarded ref. Oh, I see. I see. So what if we change the value to, for example, okay, let's try to not use this with Okay, let's see. Hello, world, then hi, Johanna. I don't know. And then let's try. What do we need to get? Okay, we want to return, for example, world. No. Or do we need to have the reference to the object? Ah, okay, there we go. So since, okay, let's try this again with HTML dialog element. Okay, I see now. That's a bit weird though. Dialog element. So let's see. Mm, oh, we can't. Oh. So I'm trying to see if we can use the, oh, there we go. So these are the properties. So we have to return the overall HTML dialog. Huh. Well, we can't do that. Okay, let's try the earlier implementation and see the use imperative handle in action. Okay, no world. So why are we getting an error? What? Okay. Hmm. What's the use of this if we just need to return everything then? Types hello. Types hello. Oh, hello string, hi string. Okay. Oh wait, I think it needs to be a literal string. Okay, that's why. And this one will be okay. So what's the use of this if we need to return everything? Customizes the instance value. Hmm. Okay, let's check the docs here. Customize the handle expose. Hmm. Okay. So in the input, suppose you don't want to expose the entire input. Oh, we must return the methods. Hmm. Oh, I see. Okay, okay, okay. That's why. Okay. So I don't really use this hook here because well, it's not recommended. Or this is useful if you want to make UI libraries and only want to expose a specific part or method of an element. But yeah, let's try to do this. Const dialog equals that use ref. Let's see here if this is correct. So we want to return an object. So we have, for example, the focus. We'll have dialog dot focus. No, we're still getting an error. So I guess this is not going to work with TypeScript, huh? Hmm. Okay then. And then with that, we can have the dialog. as the ref. Hmm, interesting. A bit iffy, but yeah, interesting. Because we will be having, or we would be having, two instances of the ref here. So the ref from the parent component and the ref for this component. So that's already two objects created. So I don't really see much use to this. Instead of course, with UI libraries. But yeah. Okay, that took a lot of time because I'm not really used to the hook named useImperativeHandle, but that's pretty much the use of it. If, if we check the documentation here, excuse me, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. What else can I talk about? I think there's nothing much. And that's pretty much all about refs. And now you can proceed and make your own UI library, which I will. Okay. Thank you for watching. And I hope you learned something as I did. I recalled about use imperative handle, which seems a bit iffy. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Good luck on your development journey. I hope you learned something and have a good day. Thank you for watching. Yeah, God bless. Goodbye.